So, bit of interesting news. Maybe you were there last night, maybe you weren't. Okay, let's face it, you probably weren't. But a lot of people in the Guild Wars 2 community were hanging around because last night at TwitchCon, the opening day, Amazon at last revealed what game they're making. So, for those out of the loop and wondering why the hell I'm doing a video on this, Amazon are in the Bellevue area, just like ArenaNet are around Seattle, and they've been siphoning talent from ArenaNet, as well as a few other big video game studios like Bungie, for a long while now. And every time it happens, the community's had a big old discussion about why Amazon is doing this, and what they could possibly be making. Names like Chris Whiteside, Eric Flanham, Kate Welch, John Peters, and more recently Colin Johansson. More and more and more have all ended up there. So naturally, we're all pretty curious what they've been making. Is this going to be wasted talent? Are they even working on an MMO at the moment? Whether those people left just because they saw no future in Guild Wars 2 anymore, or for the blunt fact that Amazon can offer much better pay and much better benefits. Those things don't really matter to me. I'm just curious about what the talent pool can create. So do consider as well, as I talk about the products that were revealed, a lot of these minds that are now there at Amazon Game Studio are people, whether you think they did well on Guild Wars 2 or not, were people that were seeking to revolutionize MMOs at one time. Again, succeed or failed. And they presumably still have a lot of philosophies that I agreed with back in 2010, 11, 12, and still would today. So what happened here? Well, they called it the unboxing event. Amazon hosted a stream. It barely broke 10,000 followers at peak as far as I understand. So it was hardly a hotly hyped event in the broader scheme of gaming media, let's be real. But who can blame the audience for that, right? When so far, what do people really associate Amazon with? They associate it with online shopping, with big business, or at worst, with terrible working conditions for its employees, right? And none of those things have anything to do with video games. Of course, people weren't really going to tune in en masse to what they're making, even though we do appreciate they've hired a lot of talent and they have pretty unlimited resources. If anybody's going to muscle their way into some of these big franchises and push some good stuff out there, they may actually have a good chance. Most of chat throughout the entirety of this event was Resident Sleeper getting spammed, raw, unbridled cynicism, and Amazon Prime jokes throughout. The key point, however, if you're wondering why Amazon's doing this when they do seem like such a weird fit, it comes down to Amazon's acquisition of Twitch back in 2014. They had apparently asked themselves when they did this, they said, what if it was the other way around? What if Twitch had been the ones that bought Amazon? What would Twitch want to do with that kind of power and resource? And by asking this question to themselves, they came up with a lot of good brainstorming, a lot of good ideas about games that integrate heavily into that platform. So news of this actually started a little bit before the event. The event itself is revealing the games, which we'll get to in just a second. But shortly before that, they announced their engine and its capabilities. It's called Lumberyard. And it's really all revolving around the idea of games being able to hook into Twitch, into streaming, into OBS and things like this, so that they can tap heavily into this idea of content creation and community building. They're saying that basically games have moved from being single player experiences to having that community-based appeal, even rewinding back to when we used to go to arcades. And when I say we there, I don't mean me, I'm too young for that. But then they're talking about how co-op became a big thing, online gaming became a big thing, and now they're seeing this huge explosion in terms of Twitch. I'm a bit more cynical, and I tend to think that it's just because they see big content creators have lots of power to sell games, and so if they do a lot to cater to large content creators, obviously they'll be able to sell their games very comfortably. But there is definitely something to be said in games with large communities do very well, and Twitch is an excellent platform to take advantage of to build something like that. If I'm still losing you, think of stuff like the insanity that was Twitch Plays Pokemon when it first came out, or some of these even experimental indie games like Party Hard that are allowing people to stream games and their audience can interact through the streamer with the game live on the fly. That is something that Amazon is now, having acquired Twitch, in a fairly unique position to be able to push in a heavy way where others maybe can't. So, they've revealed to us 3 games. I want to talk a little bit about them, whether they really look that interesting, what these devs have been doing, and really the focus of the event was on one called Breakaway.
What does it take to become a champion? It takes power, agility,
It strikes me, okay, that if you're Amazon Studios and you're starting up this new risky endeavor to start developing video games, you're gonna want a safe investment. You're gonna want to produce something that is low risk but potentially high profit. And what does that mean? You look at the current biggest genre where the largest communities are, and you try and get a slice of that pie. What do? You make a MOBA. And let's face it, that's what Breakaway really is here. Now, they avoided the term MOBA throughout the presentation, and they're using the term mythical sport brawler. And it's not quite the same as other MOBAs you've experienced. This one revolves around a ball that you're trying to dunk in the enemy's net. Imagine some intersection between Rocket League, MOBAs that you know, and basketball, and you're probably somewhere around there. And really, there's not too much to be said here. It's a base assault style game type with base building components, with itemization where you build stuff up as the fights go along. It's a 4v4 arena format. It's got 2 objectives on the map, these crystals that you can DPS for global party buffs. It's got champion-based predefined character selection. It's ticked just about every box you possibly could if you're trying to muscle in on the MOBA scene. And honestly, before the event came out, there were an awful lot of people in chat immediately showing their cynicism that this would really be worth anything, calling it a generic out-of-the-box experience and so on. I was pretty cynical too. Watching the content itself, watching how they've integrated spectator features into the content itself, I was won over a bit more by the game. I am kind of keen on trying it out. For those that don't know, I was majorly hooked, like dangerously high addicted levels to League of Legends once upon a time, back when the game was originally releasing, and I had to go cold turkey on it because otherwise it would have destroyed my life. These are the kind of games that I get seriously into, and I don't know, something about it reminds me of an old Jet Set Radio Future mini game that I used to play with my friends multiplayer many years back. We'll see. I think really where this game pulls away, and again, this is the majority of their focus for the event, so it's probably the one furthest along. I think where this pulls away a little bit more is through, as I've already explained, the Twitch interactions. They've given us a lot of reasons that this could be pretty good if you're looking to become a caster or you're looking to share. There are in-game ways of viewing exactly who's streaming what matches at what time. There are methods for the game to hook into OBS so you can show all statistics and any kind of stuff that you like right there and move around exactly as you feel fit. And there are in-game rewards that you can only earn through spectating on Twitch, which will be an interesting system to see how they make that work, and I think they will take from this game into the others too. They seem to have tried very hard, as unlike Conquest, which we're familiar with, to make a game type that is incredibly easy to spectate. And these small integrations all over the place, I think, are exactly what games like this need to get that kind of community following going along. I've heard the old adage that really the game doesn't even have to be that interesting, it just has to get interesting people to play it, and those are the kind of features that just might do that. So that's all I really want to say about Breakaway. I would note, I think that they're letting people go into alphas for this and sign up for stuff really early. They even mentioned on stage at one point that apparently the games they're producing, once they've been revealed or whatever, they're hoping to get it in people's hands very quickly, and they're taking feedback seriously, all that general PR rhetoric. And maybe if we're interested, you guys might see a video or two on it when it actually comes out, and we'll see. I'm very curious if this is where people like John Peters ended up going. He was responsible for a lot of the concepting and things for Conquest over on the Guild Wars 2 side, and how, you know, their next shot maybe at some kind of a big esport actually ends up going. All right, let's stop talking about Breakaway. I want to move on to the next of the games. The second of the 3 is Crucible. This one really, I think there's the least to speculate, the least to talk about, but it did seem pretty interesting. And I'm going to read their description actually verbatim for this one. Crucible is a battle to the last survivor on a hostile alien world. Players choose and customize heroes, making alliances and betraying allies on their path to victory. Well, so far, according to that description, sounds pretty cool, and they do have some lovely artwork there. I am a bit of a sucker for last man standing type game modes and experiences, but where it gets interesting and where we really start to see the Twitch stuff come in even more than just, you know, helping casters and things, is this description here, that for Crucible, an additional player can join the game. So there's going to be 12 that are fighting for survival and only one will make it in the end. But there'll be a 13th player, and this additional player heightens the drama by triggering events live streaming the battles, and interacting with viewers. So the idea is you're going to have like this extra spectating player that is able to manipulate things on a broader scale, more of a high strategy level, and that player's Twitch audience that is watching at the time will be able to make emergent things happen around the world. Sounds like a very novel idea, and it sounds like a very contained idea. I actually think of the 3 products, Crucible might be the one where you see those Twitch interactions and people really manipulating the events of the gameplay as much as possible. I think you'll see that more anywhere else than in Crucible. But I think the ideas that you'll find in Crucible come into the final game, which is the one I think most of us watching this will be interested in. It is confirmed they are working on an MMO. So to be clear, these 3 games, really on stage, they didn't have very much detail at all. We got a bit of a look into Amazon Game Studios. I was desperate to see if any devs we were familiar with were going to appear on that video, but they didn't, unfortunately. But they basically whizzed through Crucible and New World and then stuck about on Breakaway. New World, they didn't even describe as an MMO in the video, as far as I understand. But if you look at some of the other press that they've released for it, if you go to, say, the Amazon page where they want you to buy it or whatever, or look and get ready for when it's available, they do use the term MMO. They are making an MMO. This is actually where I think the majority of the devs we might be familiar with ended up moving on over to. This is where their talents are probably being utilized. And so, of course, this is the one I'm most interested in, though there's no confirmation exactly who's working on what. So I find it interesting they avoided the term MMO, by the way. Do I think that's actually going to have a big effect on how this content is viewed? I don't know. I mean, they kind of avoided the term MOBA for Breakaway, right? Before providing us with all of that aforementioned stuff that basically makes it a MOBA. I think we could be in the same situation for this. Whether a lot of the other philosophies that many of us in the Guild Wars 2 community have really enjoyed about MMOs have gone along with those specific developers remains to be seen. There are obviously going to be a lot of other people in that pool. Hopefully they've learned a lot of lessons about what they made in Guild Wars 2 that get taken on here. But obviously those ideas and those concepts are going to get diluted a lot down, especially if maybe these developers aren't in such senior positions anymore, though a lot of their LinkedIn pages sort of suggest that they are. Where the new MMO from Amazon seems to break away a bit is they're calling it a sandbox experience. That's what they focus on more than anything else. There's a huge emphasis on the idea that you can form large alliances between various peoples or go it alone on your own, that you can forge your own story and do your own sandbox style experience is a big part for them. And I actually think that what this MMO is going to try and thrive on more than anything else is that idea of lots of renewable emergent content that comes out of nowhere and is generated by the community. I actually think that this is the way that MMOs have been desperately trying to go to for a long time. If you're going for theme park MMOs still in 2016 with how difficult and the standards of quality that people expect, it's so exhaustible. It's a real shame that EverQuest Next, by the way, essentially evaporated into nothingness, because I think, again, that was going for the same style thing. But I think what Amazon's doing with their sandboxy ideas, again, is going to heavily rely on this Twitch stuff. Remember what we talked about with Crucible? Though I think you might see Crucible really dives into it as much as possible because it's more smaller in scope. This idea of people on Twitch being able to influence and trigger events and affect alliances and stuff emergently in an MMO on a broad scale, I think that's what New World's going to try for. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Breakaway come out first, that allows Amazon to hone in on their kind of small scale, more immediate ability to deliver a game, any game. Then Crucible, which I think will be a bit larger in scope and will refine some of these systems and obviously have its own ambitions and aims, before I think you'll finally find that they release New World at the end. And this will be the culmination of everything they've learned from the other 2 games and supporting the other 2 games and pushing this out as hopefully that killer MMO, right? That people really enjoy. I do like the idea of it being very sandboxy. If you're wondering about like the setting and so forth, this is their description verbatim. They say, carve your own destiny in New World, a massively multiplayer, open-ended sandbox game set in a living, cursed land. They say choose how you play, what you do, and whom you work with or against in an evolving world. You see how many dynamic kind of words they're throwing in here, that transforms with the seasons, weather, and time of day. Band together to reclaim monster-haunted wilds and build thriving civilizations, or strike out on your own, surviving in the face of supernatural terrors and murderous player bandits. Focused on emergent gameplay and rich social features, including deep Twitch integration with broadcaster-led events, achievements, and rewards. Your only limit in the new world is your ambition. The setting is some idea of when the Americas were discovered, I believe, and everybody went to a new world, but this is a situation in which kind of dark, horrific, evil, fantasy-style monsters actually exist. I'd say that the tone of New World is unlike the tone of many MMOs we see release. It seems a bit grittier, it seems a bit older. For example, the introductory art that they've got showing New World is this guy in this mask, and scratched onto his face is all this Latin, I believe it is. My girlfriend was trying to actually translate some of this. Apparently it's from the Bible? It looks like, what is it, a psalm? It's Revelations 22. And when you translate it, it says something like, through the middle of the street of the city, also on either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit in each month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. I don't really know what that means. I think there are some big themes of immortality, though. And immortality is a pretty cool theme. But yeah, it feels a bit darker, right? You can see it already. I actually don't see very much overlap with something like Guild Wars 2, but it is something that appeals to me. And especially as somebody who does use Twitch and does create content, the idea of having some deep system whereby broadcasters can lead events and people can build their communities in this way is really quite exciting. So New World's the one to look out for, guys. New World's probably where Colin and so forth are and where they're trying to lend their talents. New World's probably the one at the end of the list. Hopefully it doesn't go the way of the dodo and we'll get more information. And I thought I'd fill you guys in. That was the Amazon Studios reveal. Again, a huge amount of focus on Breakaway, but that's where I'm looking at. New World for now. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is all just a bunch of nothing? I'll remind you, the climate of this reveal was really very low. People are super cynical about Amazon's ability to produce any kind of decent content. And are they wrong for that? Or maybe is the fact that this stream didn't really get too much buzz immediately out the gate absolutely justified? I'd love to hear, guys, and tell me, honestly, right now, do you want to be kept in the loop on New World and stuff like this from my channel, or is all you're looking at Guild Wars 2 all the time? I want to hear the comments, because this is obviously a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I'm excited to get out of my wheelhouse. Just a little. We'll see what you guys think. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in God knows how many months when maybe they reveal something more. Catch you next time, guys. Because this would earn them profit. So this quote inspired a lot of discussion in the community, because it was kind of one of these